Good evening, everyone. My name is Elena Sinel. I'm the founder of Teens in AI, and welcome to the kickoff of the AI Accelerator 2021, which is the sixth time we're running this program. So I'm absolutely delighted to open this year's Accelerator with a fantastic guest, a keynote opening. An opening keynote speaker from Mastercard, Kaye Kirschner, who's already on the call with us. But before I invite Kaye to do her keynote talk, I just wanted to very briefly highlight what this Accelerator program is about and what we have been up to in the past week. So the AI Accelerator is a very unique program, and it started 6 years ago when we didn't really explore artificial intelligence. It was just a STEM camp run every year in the summer, face-to-face here in London. Since 2018, since we launched Teens in AI, we decided to focus solely on artificial intelligence for impact. And so during this summer program, these days, what we do is we explore United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and we encourage our young people to tackle these goals or challenges using artificial intelligence or data science for impact. It's been a very, very exciting journey. Since the pandemic, we have run the first accelerator program last year with about 45 teenagers from across the world. This year, it's run for the second time online. And I'm really excited that this year's participants are again coming from such a diverse background. Students coming from Pakistan, from Palestine, from Syria, from Ghana, from UK, from France, from US. So it's a very, very diverse cohort, boys and girls. The majority are girls because the majority of the projects this year are from the International Women's Day Hackathon that was just run in March. So it's really exciting to see this project hopefully coming to life and hopefully impacting lots of lives around the world. So on this note, I would like to introduce Kaye and invite Kaye to do her opening talk. And this officially opens our AI Accelerator, which is a 2-week program. But preceding this, we've had the Tech Bootcamp, which was obviously it's the highlight also of the program. And this is where we build the foundation, the tech foundation. But week 2 and week 3, which is when the accelerator happens, it's all about product and it's about developing tech for something impactful. Kaye, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the warm welcome. Hi, everyone. I first off want to thank participating in this program. This is such a wonderful opportunity. Teens in AI has such a unique mission to give young people, early exposure to AI being developed and deployed for social good. And I applaud you all on having this run for 6 years. It's also great that this is the first time that you guys are focusing on accelerating some of the projects that came out of recent hackathons. I've heard about some of the solutions that you're working on. They're very impressive. It's also impressive that you guys are coming from such diverse backgrounds and places. And I encourage you all to learn from one another, share your experiences in your day-to-day life, how AI impacts you, how you've learned about AI best, actively listening and staying curious throughout the program. So my name is Kaye Kirschner, and I work at Mastercard, and I'm proud that they're a founding partner of Teens in AI. And we are invested in this organization because you all are the future. We're thrilled at your passion for social good and for wanting to use technology to make the world better. My role in AI is to help build proof of concept AI models and products for people in the financial services space. And it involves teaching customers about using AI technology, listening to people about how AI could be better working for them, and thinking about what data I want to use to make an algorithm strong, but still while keeping in mind people's privacy and ethical concerns. And I love AI because it's so pervasive in what we do today. It's everywhere. I mean, I'm thinking about so far what I've done today and, where I've encountered AI. I was listening to music earlier, and I use a streaming service that understands what music I like, and it recommends new songs to me based on that. And something simple like that makes my day more enjoyable, more efficient, you could say. AI is, everywhere. It's in e-commerce suggesting what you should buy. It's in voice assistants helping you to search better. There's so many potential uses of AI, and I particularly admire using AI for good. I've heard of some of the projects that you guys are putting together, and they're around really tough and important problems, such as mental health for youth, or an app to help people hard of hearing decipher sounds and voices of those around them. As humans, we try to push the limits of our own learning and intelligence, and I'm excited that you all are participating in pushing the limits of machine learning for social good. We hear about AI in the news. It touches so many people. It provides an opportunity for change. With all these opportunities, we do have to think about how AI could cause some problems on its own and think about ethical concerns. Machines and algorithms are trained with data provided by humans, and they don't have bad intentions, but certain circumstances can lead algorithms to producing results that can negatively impact people. This could happen in a few ways. People could program an algorithm with bias. For instance, I might think it's funny to have a labeling algorithm where I'm trying to label things as cats, and I see a hairless cat, and as a joke, I label it as a dog. The next time someone uses this model, they might not know that I've intentionally mislabeled something, and their results aren't going to be accurate. There's also the case of using data that has bias in it that you're not aware of. So for instance, say I want to build an algorithm to hire data scientists, and I enjoy the data scientists I work with now, so I'd like to find more who are similar to them. I'm thinking of parsing text from resumes with their qualifications on it and seeing if we can hire similar people. Let's say that I do that, and all the people that are recommended to me all happen to play football. That's not what you would expect as all of the candidates having in common and a quality that I'd be looking for if I am hiring for a data science job. But then you remember I had previously hired someone who played football. They had referred their friends because they enjoyed the job so much. And then all of a sudden, we did happen to have a lot of football players. But I should have thought maybe about removing athletic affiliations, religious affiliations, gender, qualities like that, which could bias the algorithm into thinking about qualities that are not important to who is a good data scientist and could lead to a biased selection of candidates for a job. Thinking about ethics is one role you could play in AI. There's other roles like crunching numbers and writing code, thinking about how to market AI products, thinking about product management and user interfaces of how people are going to interact with algorithms or the outputs of algorithms. You can also think about new problems to solve, which is what I do at Mastercard. So there's a lot of opportunity in AI. And what role can you play in advancing the technology? It's not always an easy question to answer, but I'd say that continuing to learn as much as you can and deciding what you find most interesting and have a passion to work on is a path that personally worked for me. When I was younger, my favorite subjects in school were art and writing. And I was very creative, and I thought that I wanted to be an artist when I grow up. Later, when I went to college, I found that more quantitative subjects really piqued my interest. I started as a communications major and quickly transferred to applied economics. When I graduated, I joined a consulting company that solved a wide range of problems for companies using big data analytics. My role at that company was to think about structuring problems, anticipating what customers would find important, and communicating results. Structuring problems reminds me of seeing a blank canvas and thinking about what brushstrokes I want to make. Anticipating what customers want to hear about touch on my fascination with people and love of psychology. And communicating results touched on my love of writing and wanting to share knowledge with others. Fast forward even more years, and I continue to be challenged by my work. I love thinking about ethics and communicating about AI, collaborating with diverse people, and just staying active and listening, asking questions. So I'm very excited that as part of this program, you'll be exposed to programming areas that I find very important, such as human-centered design, project management, business models, and entrepreneurship. Being successful in AI means having well-rounded skills and the right mindset to achieve what you set out to do. There are many opportunities to use AI in the world to make it better. And I want to congratulate you all for taking the first step in doing that by being here. And you have so much opportunity ahead of you. I encourage you to think about the impact that you want to make in the field, what you enjoy doing, how you want to leverage your unique skills to make progress. And I look forward to seeing the amazing successes that you all accomplish. Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Kaye, for this. So I'm going to be checking to see whether we have any questions. But in the meantime, the first question I would love to ask you is, where do you see artificial intelligence making the most impact in, let's say, 5 to 10 years? And what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'll start with what I'm most excited about. So I'm definitely passionate about AI. I think one area where I would love to see, I think there is a lot of data on and outcomes of medicines or trials and previous medical histories. And it's hard because there's a lot of sensitive information, privacy concerns. There's also a lot of opportunity, and people are starting to collaborate that in ways that are safe and respectful to individuals in regards to their data. So I'm very optimistic and excited and hopeful that we can use AI to solve problems related to healthcare, maybe curing diseases or running successful drug trials. That's something that I really am excited about in AI.
Fantastic. And where do you expect the most impact to happen? Any particular area where you feel there will definitely be a lot of disruption and AI will make a significant impact?
Yeah, so I think there will continue to be from AI. So I think there's a lot of processes, in various industries where we were not going about fast or accurately as possible. So I think there's going to be lots of automation by AI. I think we're going to be able to make more accurate decisions and faster decisions. Also better decisions. So in the financial services space, we're, in the past, we've assessed things like credit risk, using solutions that don't necessarily use as much data as they could or AI. And we're doing that now in a way that will hopefully open up credit to more people. So solutions like that, which, provide more democracy to folks and do things in a really smart and intelligent way.
Fantastic. So we have our very first question for you from Ali, who's based in Syria. The question is, how can you detect bias in big data?
Yeah, it's not a good question, but I would say that it starts by thinking before you've built the algorithm, and then just take a step back and say, before you start the project, look at are there data elements that could bias that are particularly sensitive? I don't even want to include them. So something like gender, you probably don't need unless it's a health study where it's women. So you would need to know that it's a woman, for that specific scenario. But in the job scenario, do you need to know it's a woman? No, I wouldn't put that in the data set. So I'd first try to remove as many sensitivities as possible. And then when you actually make the algorithm and you see the output, one way you could detect bias is by testing to see if some instances of bias trying to avoid exist, not exist. Yeah. So in the job scenario again, if I was trying to avoid having all candidates, that would ended up popping out. So then I should probably go back and think about how to redo that.
Fantastic. And are there any scenarios you can point out where we should be perhaps careful when it comes to using artificial intelligence, particularly we definitely will be studying AI ethics over the next 5 days, and these will be our morning sessions, and we will attempt to cover as many case studies as possible. Is there anything you are concerned about and something that you perhaps would like to forewarn our teenagers about when it comes to using artificial intelligence, particularly in relation to the biases that could potentially creep in data sets?
Yeah, I guess I would say that you can be well-intentioned and really try your hardest to not have bias and be ethical, but never quite sure where that might show up. Try to scrub the data and have elements that you think are not going to lead to bias, but then there could be proxies that you don't realize. So an example of that is, say you don't want to know someone's income when you're building an algorithm. Say there's a code. It's that. Often zip codes are a proxy. Would have about the same income. Maybe if you model using zip codes, actually biasing against people. So you'll gradually learn more and more about what those proxies are. At your first go, maybe you won't totally have the most ethical algorithm, but you'll learn more about it. Doesn't mean that you intentionally have a biased model. You'll get better as you learn more.
Fantastic. And my last question would be, what can we do to improve diversity in AI, and how can we attract more women and LGBTQ and various other genders, because we want to improve diversity in so many different levels. What can we do better to improve that diversity collectively as an industry, and also just various organizations and whatnot? Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, so first and foremost, having diverse organizations is good for everyone. It's great that people have different ideas and they bring those everyone to be thinking the same. So first of all, I would encourage everyone about diversity, and there are true benefits of having that. There's a lot of stuff about that. And then in terms of getting more, be afraid to speak up if you have anything that you're the only person that. There's no reason you can't be in the role. No one was in the role before you. I've often been on teams that are more male dominated, and it's okay. View everyone as the person you're going to do. Have so much to do, and by being that person, you are the first person, hopefully showing that diversity is working and you're not. So you're setting an example for the future, and by doing that can hopefully also hiring Also joining recruiting teams, trying to go to events and meet other like-minded about strategies we can collaborate to push the whole industry forward, such as Teens in AI. Really, wonderful organization. Yeah, there's so many strides we can make, and I encourage you all to take part of that.
Fantastic. And I've got one last minute question that just came through. So again, the question is, what do you think are some of the reasons why a lot of AI tech startups fail? I don't know where the statistic comes from. They didn't really quote, but it's an assumption. But if you would like to clarify why startups fail in general and why AI startups would fail, please do.
Yeah, so startups in general, just the way that startups are, some are going to succeed and make it big. You're going to hear about those in the news. And then there's a lot of other startups that are not going to make it big. You don't often hear about those as much. But I wouldn't say that AI startups in particular are riskier or more likely to fail. There's a lot of reasons that businesses don't succeed. First, you want to make sure that you understand product or solution that you're offering to people. It's something that you're building an AI algorithm, got no use. Say, again, you're classifying images of cats. How many businesses need an algorithm to classify cats in an entire business around that? Not that many. So bringing that to market leads to success. Another reason is you might not have the right team. So if you want to start, don't have any. It could be hard, have someone who understands cloud technology or infrastructure. So when you get to selling products, you don't really know how a customer is actually going to use your product because you don't have expertise on the team to tell you how that's going to work. Maybe you don't have enough money to found the startup. A lot of people have great ideas, but they just don't have enough money and runway to make it happen. Have money to this. So people have great ideas, but it doesn't always work out. And I would not say that AI companies are less successful. So don't be discouraged by that.
Fantastic. So on this note, we will definitely be letting you go, Kaye, but thank you so much for joining us and for opening our AI Accelerator officially. Thank you so much to everyone who have been sending questions as well. So we have our second speaker already on the call, and we will come back in literally 1 minute. We're just going to take a 1 minute pause, and we'll be seeing you very shortly. Thank you so much, Kaye, once again.
Oh, bye, everyone.
Recording stopped.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the kickoff of our AI Accelerator. You have just heard from our keynote speaker, Kaye, from AI Express in Mastercard, who are the headline sponsors of our AI Accelerator. And just now we've had Susana Duran, who joined us to open our discussion or open the topic of AI ethics. And Susana is joining us from Sage. Welcome, Susana, and thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm very, very excited to hear your talk. And you're, again, very rarely do we have still, which is a shame, a female, software engineer, female engineer. So it's always exciting to hear your story, how you got into tech, but also, of course, we're looking forward to listening to some of the aspects that you will highlight to open the AI ethics topic for us, because we will be learning about ethics every day over the next 5 days. But it will be a very great introductory talk. So everyone, looking forward to listening to this. And straight after this talk, do please ask your questions here and today, or you can always, of course, tweet at us as well. But asking questions on YouTube chat is always the best way to get all the questions answered. And my co-host Hannah is also on the call, and quite possibly she will be taking the questions and asking to Susana. And I know Hannah herself has got a lot of questions. So Hannah, I know you will have a chance to introduce yourself later on, but Susana, for now, it's over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Elena. Well, thanks, Teams in AI, for inviting me today to talk in the AI Accelerator 2021 program. This is the 6th year you run this program, but I think this time it's even more exciting, isn't it? If I see that you're focusing now on projects that were built during the past hackathons, like the International Women's Day Hackathon you ran last March. And I think it's an amazing, great opportunity to take those projects to the next level, learning from teams. They sit everywhere. I saw they were so diverse. That's amazing. And I think that, well, after this initial week, you guys are going to focus on your projects covering different topics, like the one I'm going to talk today. So ethics of AI. So let's start.
Recording in progress.
Let me say again that I'm really, really happy to be part of this. So now let me share my screen, and I hope that this is going to work. And I'm going to share the right one. So yeah, here I am. So, well, and I'm going to start before going into the details, just with a brief introduction of myself. And well, I'm Susana Duran. As Elena said, I'm computer engineer. I have a technical background. Currently, I'm VP of engineering at Sage. It's a British multinational software company, and I'm working at the AI lab. I'm working right now on digital assistants, working on digital experiences, trying to make the interactions of our customers in a different way, let them deal with our solutions in a completely different way through AI. Before, I was studying different stuff, project management, usability, and other things. But I also was CTO of different startups. So I just worked with from small business to the biggest one, like I'm right now. And after joining Sage, which was almost 7 years ago, I was appointed as technical fellow. So I've been advocating and evangelizing technology and AI and ethics of AI. Since then, my spare time, I'm a professor as well. And I want to highlight that I've been always working with different organizations which aim to increase the visibility of women in tech. So, well, that's me. And now, after this brief intro, let's start with this. Let's start, and I'm going to start with a question. So, what would you think about someone that says that women are worse programmers than men? Or a person that says that a Black people it's likely to be a repeat offender more than white people? Or a Latino person is less likely than a white person to pay off their loan on time? You would probably say that this person is racist, misogynistic, or simply that their values are not the right ones, isn't it? You would never empower that person to make important decisions like evaluating your loan, interviewing you for a job, or judging you if that hypothetical case occurs. But all these sentences and similar ones have been the outcome of AI-based solutions. Those systems decided that loans should not be granted to a Latino person, and just because the color of your skin, they decided that you will be a repeat offender, or because your gender or your age, you don't reserve your dream job. And well, humans, all of us, are reinforcing our own bias in AI. We are letting AI take decisions like the previous ones that would never be allowed to a human. And I could stop this talk now because we already know what is ethically correct and what is not. It doesn't matter if we talk about AI outcomes or about human behaviors. Bad is bad. But I definitely want to share it with you more. So let's keep on with the next one. And now I would like you to wonder why we should be worried about this. Why? And well, what I just said, I think it sounds like an issue, doesn't it? We need to worry about all this because AI is everywhere. 8 out of the 10 biggest companies in the world are technology companies that are heavily invested in AI. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, so Google, Facebook, Tencent, and others. AI is embedded in your phone, from your voice assistant to your Photos app or the traffic navigation app. Is it in your daily searches on the internet, on the shopping recommendations, helping with credit card detection, and so on? But we need to think the implications of following those outcomes. When you get suggestions from movies or for the shopping recommendations, is it clear why they were suggested? What pattern was Netflix or Amazon following to suggest that? Are they guiding us or are they influencing us? And for instance, are these smart replies, like the ones that you can see on the screen now, are the right ones to create those automated responses? They have read and understood your messages. Were you aware of that fact? Or when we talk about algorithms to detect faces, are those algorithms used in an ethical way? And what is its accuracy? I don't think it's 100%. Therefore, if it's less, what happens when it fails? There are a lot of questions like these ones, but think that AI is everywhere. But we should challenge at least once those black box algorithms and know what it's going there. So let's see some more examples where the AI outcome was a clear ethical failure. And AI has been quite successful with images. Images are labeled so you can search in a better way later. And that's a pretty common feature. So in 2015, Google Photos algorithm auto-tagged pictures of Black people as gorillas. Google's first reaction was to ban gorillas everywhere in that algorithm. But later, Google decided to remove labeling, saying that image labeling technology was still early in its initial data, and it was not enough good, and it was nowhere near perfect. Well, this lack of diversity that we had to identify or tag pictures have been also impacting other features, like these ones. The first one, it's a camera. It's a camera that doesn't recognize the young lady. It's not blinking. She's just smiling. The other well-known example is face detection, where in this case, it's not detecting the black guy. Obviously, all these systems work perfectly well with white men. So here, we see the importance of diversity in the data you use to train any AI solution. Okay, in a different area, we can review this case. The autonomous car. The autonomous car must also undertake considerable amount of training in order to understand the data that it's collecting and to be able to make the right decision in any imaginable traffic situation. We make moral decisions every single day. So when a driver chooses to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting a jaywalker, they are making a moral decision to shift the risk from pedestrians to the people in the car. Now, imagine an autonomous car with broken brakes going at full speed towards a grandmother and a child. By deviating a little, one can be safe. So this time, it's not a human driver who is going to take the decision, but the car algorithms. Who would you choose, the grandmother or the child? And do you think there's only one right answer? Okay, a different one was the case of Tay. Tay was a bot on Twitter that was launched by Microsoft in 2016 with the personality of a teenager. It was there to learn from humans, but in less than 24 hours, it learned to be racist, sexist, and many other awful things, so it was disabled. It wasn't an experiment, but it was AI learning from humans with no supervision. So imagine what could happen if, based on those learnings, Tay could have taken important decisions. Wow. And a similar topic is justice. And risk assessment tools are designed to do one thing, taking the details of a defendant profile to generate a recidivism score. A single number estimating the likelihood that he or she will reoffend. So a judge then factors that score into tons of decisions that can determine what type of rehabilitation services particular defendants should receive, whether they should be held in jail before trial, and how severe their sentence should be. So in this example, the lowest score was given to the real repeat offender, so letting him go and accusing the other in a much severe way with no reason. The logic for using such algorithm tools is that you can accurately predict criminal behavior. You can allocate resources accordingly, whether for rehabilitation or for prison sentences. And in theory, it also reduces any bias influencing the process, because judges are making decisions on basis of data-driven recommendations and not based on their gut feeling. However, as you can see, bias is still there. Let's see another dimension. We don't usually take into account this one, but it definitely has ethical implications: creativity and culture. And these are two clear examples. In 2016, a Rembrandt painting, the next Rembrandt, was designed by a computer, and created by a 3D printer. 351 years after the painter's death. So to achieve such a technological and artistic prowess, 346 Rembrandt paintings were analyzed pixel by pixel and upscaled by deep learning algorithms to create a unique database. Every detail of Rembrandt's artistic identity could be captured and set the foundations for an algorithm capable of creating an unprecedented masterpiece. To bring the painting to life, a 3D printer recreated the texture of brush strokes on the canvas for an impressive result that could trick almost any art expert. But here, who can be designated as the author? The company which orchestrated the project, the engineers, the algorithm, Rembrandt himself. In 2019, we have another example. The Chinese technology company Huawei announced that an AI algorithm was able to complete the last two movements of Symphony No. 8, the unfinished composition that Franz Schubert started in 1822, 197 years before. So what happens when AI has the capacity to create works of art itself? If a human author is replaced by machines and algorithms, to what extent copyrights can be attributed at all? Can and should an algorithm be recognized as an author? Should those algorithms enjoy the same rights as an artist? Well, that's part of that ethical dilemma. So let's see the last example that I wanted to share with you. And I want to add the area when I'm currently working on. This is an area where we have been perpetuating stereotypes and biases for a long time. Virtual assistants like Siri, Cortana, and Alexa perform functions historically given to women. They schedule appointments, look up information, and are generally designed for communication. They are female voices designed to be obedient and accept your orders. Assigning gender to these AI personalities may say something about the roles we expect them to play. And AI personalities may say something else. This has improved over time. Apple and other technology companies have adjusted now how their assistants react to suggestions and questions beyond the typical use cases envisaged for their systems. So now, rather than blushing, for example, Siri now has a more underwhelming, I don't know how to respond to that, response for sexist comments. Other changes in recent years have included encouraging users to say please and thank you as they interact with AI. So next time that you ask Alexa or any other virtual assistant for the weather forecast, please don't forget to say thanks. And well, as I said before, we should be worried about the impact of AI, about the ethics of AI. That set of values and principles that we need to define, accept, and apply, obviously, to our AI algorithms. So we will know that they will behave accordingly to our own human values. Let's see some principles that we should definitely follow. And first off, AI should reflect the diversity of our society. So AI is not only as unbiased as the data it has been given by humans. So it's no surprise that AI models tend to embody human biases. Examples of that bias are quite well known. And we have, I think recently, I'm sure you have heard quite a lot about facial recognition issues, but there are many others. And the consequence of biased outcomes can be critical. And now large companies such as IBM and Google have started researching and addressing some of those ethical and privacy issues. But in general, this is a matter that needs to be solved by absolutely everyone who inputs data into AI. Secondly, the creators and operators of AI should be accountable. We have learned that users build a relationship with AI and start to trust it after just a few meaningful interactions. With trust comes responsibility. So AI needs to be held accountable for its actions and decisions, just like humans. And unlocking the AI black box and providing transparency on AI's decisions making, and this will ensure human creators and operators understand how AI acts on our behalf. So we can trust that its recommendations and findings are reliable and have not been compromised. And finally, we need to ensure the privacy of users. And that's an important one, because then we need to increase the security of the whole solution. And in this area, there are some ongoing initiatives like federated learning, which is a new way of learning that does not require users to actually share their data. Data stays in the local system or the device, like the mobile device, and instead of being set to or stored in a central cloud server, the data is stored in the device. So the privacy is guaranteed. And this method is pretty new, but it allows us to increase the data diversity by enabling those models to benefit from diverse local datasets that never would be shared in another way. So if you are interested, you can read the UNESCO recommendations on ethics of AI. And although it's still a draft of 24 pages, you can find in their website that covers many, many areas. And UNESCO is not the only one doing this. This is a really important topic, and many organizations have, over the world, have started similar initiatives as well. So next time you develop, design, or test your AI solution, please think about all the possible outcomes that that system would generate. And what would you think about them if they were made by a human? Because a bad behavior is always a bad behavior, and do the right thing should be done by humans, but also by our machines. So that was all what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you so much, Susana, for the talk. I had a couple of questions. You were talking about driverless cars and how, for example, if there was the grandma and the child, who would you hit if the brakes were broken? In that situation, because you were saying that the AI should be held accountable, in that situation, I had two questions. Would you suggest that we hold the driver accountable, the company, or the actual algorithm? And also, how would you suggest we hold AI accountable? Is that by punishing the company, or is that by stopping the algorithm? Or
when we said that the AI needs to be accountable, it's not the machine itself. It's the creators and the operators, the ones that need to be accountable. So they need to understand that anything that they create is going to be accountable. Therefore, there's a consequence of any wrong decision. In that case, the car, the system needs to decide based on the data that has been used to train the system, and there's more than one decision. There's more than one response that we can use to respond, to react. But it's the car in that case, the one that will decide what is the best one. And it's not only about the grant. So, and I was saying that there's more than one answer, because there's the grandmother, that's the child, but also there's the people inside the car. So what is going to be the response, we actually don't know. And that's the problem. We actually don't know what is going to be the decision that the algorithm is going to take. So that's why absolutely any data or any algorithm used to make those decisions needs to be done having in mind these values and the human behaviors, but the good ones, not the others. So at the end, the one accountable would be the company that it's creating that algorithm, because it's the one that has been training the algorithm. It's the one that has been allowing these bad decisions, and that's why it's so difficult to have those autonomous cars out there, because even in the best situation, even if there was, from our point of view, there was not other option to take that decision, it was an algorithm, the one who killed or to hit someone. So it's quite difficult to go through these kind of dilemmas without having a guilty side. So someone that has, the one that has taken the decision needs to be a human at the end. Well, and you know that those cars need to have a driver, a real driver there, because letting at the last one that takes the decision can be the human. So it's really difficult, definitely for autonomous cars, have these moral decisions, that ethical decisions added into the car, because at the end there will be always that decision.
Okay, thank you so much. You were also saying that it's like there's less women in the field of like AI, and like, could you suggest any barriers there are for women to get into AI, and how any women can like overcome said barriers?
Well, there are less women in AI because there's just a few women in technology, and the barriers are the same. This is about what we have learned since we were very young, that technology is not for women and things like that. These are not real barriers, you know. It's if you like it, you can do it, and above all, without having diverse creators, diverse programmers, diverse designers, diverse testers, we cannot be sure that the solutions that we're going to create are good enough, because they are not going to take into account our point of view. So by having this diverse ecosystem of, in this case, women in the AI field, we will ensure that the algorithms and the solutions that we are creating are taking into account our own point of view. So it's, if you like it, you need to go for it.
Okay, thank you so much. Someone on the YouTube live stream has asked, will AI ever feel emotions like humans feel?
Feel emotions? Well, it depends. I remember a similar question years ago about, and it was about creativity, but AI would be able to create art. I would say, I don't think in the coming years, in the near future, this is going to be possible. AI, general AI, it's still not here. And emotions, yeah, of course, can be faked, but the system, the solution needs to be aware of itself, and that's not possible so far. Therefore, these feelings and these emotions are quite hard to be defined. Of course, you can fake them and have this kind of happiness or sadness depending on the external situations, but it's not going to be the same than human emotions. I don't think so. However, I said a similar thing about art, and a few years after, AI start creating paintings like the ones that I was showing from Rembrandt. So who knows?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for answering the questions and for such a great talk introducing the ethics, which is going to be very vital for all the participants to think about while they're making their solutions. We'd really like them to think about the ethical implications of their solution and how they can possibly change that to make sure that it's as ethically right as possible. So thank you so much for giving us things to think about relating to what to do in terms of ethics and AI. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thanks. It was a pleasure.
Recording stopped.